Hi, everybody. So it's been forever, and I apologize for that. It's been a crazy semester for you, I'm sure, and for me as well. So I apologize for being out of communication. I don't like to do that to you, but you have flourished without me and have done great working together, and I appreciate all of your effort that you've put into everything. I am frantically catching up on giving you feedback on assignments, and because I am late in doing that, I want to make sure you have a little bit more time to get things done. So I'm going to go ahead and extend the due date on pretty much everything to Monday night, so just shy of a week here. So next Monday night at midnight will be our drop dead as far as getting everything turned in, except for the final exam and the personal learning theory. So I thought I'd take a minute to just go through what our final assignments are, wrapping up the class and all of that good stuff. Perhaps you have noticed at this point that your lowest scoring lesson plan analysis automatically drops off the grade book. So if there's one that you've missed, don't worry too much about that unless you want that learning experience, which of course is wonderful. But I do drop the lowest scoring one of those. Okay. All right, so if we go into the modules area in our Canvas course, you should notice that I've set up a module for how to finish the class. So we'll go in there as soon as Canvas loads up. It's being a little slow because everybody's hitting it right now. But it's all the way at the bottom of our modules list, and then it's called Finishing the Key Assignments. Okay, so the first thing I want to draw your attention to there, if you go to the first page, which says Final Key Assignments, it tells you, first of all, what the key assignments are so that you're really aware. We've got the Tipper Parts 1 and 2, that's one key assignment, and then the assessment inventory, all those assessments you created either by yourself or with your group. That's another key assignment. And so I'll go through with you really briefly how to finish all of those up. What I wanted to point out on this page, though, if you keep scrolling down a little bit, it talks about starting your senior portfolio. And there are some resources there, including a video about how to go about downloading the files that you need and getting started on your senior portfolio. So I really strongly encourage you to do that. One of the links here, this one to the Google site, actually has the folder structure that you'll need to put everything into so that your portfolio is all organized and ready to submit, which you have to do right before you start student teaching or interning. So if any of you have that on your schedule for this coming fall, you need to be aware of that and working on it over the summer. It's really not hard to put together. You just copy and paste your key assignments from your hard drive into this folder system that I've set up for you, and then you just will burn that to a CD in your Classroom Management 2 class come the fall. Okay, so it's all set up, really easy to do. You just find the folder for the semester when you started the program. So most of you started this semester, I hope, because you're supposed to take my class first semester. So you just go and find the spring 2015 folder, download that zipped file, and then open it up so that you can use it. Okay, so I wanted to make you aware of that. All right, now if we go into well, we'll just continue on in this module. I think that might be easiest at this point. So first of all, Tipper Part 1. You've submitted part of this. If you've done any revisions to those Tipper questions, please resubmit them under Tipper Submission 1 as the assignment. That's how I will go back and regrade those ones that you've already written. I will not go through your final document that you're about to submit and check to see if you've changed anything because I won't remember, okay? So make sure if you've done any revising that you resubmit that in part 1, or excuse me, in under Tipper Submission 1, that assignment, so that I can regrade it for you, okay? For your final version, Tipper Part 1 should include responses to questions 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 4 more, right? So you can choose any 4 from numbers 5 through 14 that you respond to. So that makes a total of 8, right? Total of 8 responses for Tipper Part 1. So make sure you have all of that. Then you're going to go in and do Tipper Part 2. And this should all be put into a single document for the final submission. That allows me to download it when the semester's over so that if something happens and you lose your Tipper, I'm going to have it. It also ensures that you've got everything in one document so you're not going to lose anything, okay? All right, so I'm going to go down here and go to the Tipper Part 2 assignment description so that you can see what to do there. Okay. So this is where you're going to write up your teaching experience that you did out in the field. So you should have taught a little 20-minute, or for some of you, a whole class period lesson, and this is your chance to write that up. So there is a link to a worksheet that I've created for you right here. You just download that Word document and fill it out. And you're basically telling me what your class was like. So what were the demographics and everything. If you did a contextual factors for your curriculum class, then you can just copy and paste that, okay? And then you're going to tell me about how you became aware of your students' levels of readiness, their profiles and interests in preparation for differentiating a lesson. Those are two things that we're looking for in Tipper Part 2, or differentiation and your use of a learning theory, okay? So you might say simply, I spent 20 hours volunteering in this class and was able to see their work and become familiar with their levels of readiness and their learning profiles and things like that. Maybe some of you did a pre-assessment or something like that, which is great, but that's not a requirement here, okay? All right, so then you're going to tell me a little bit about, and this is all in this document, but you're going to tell me a little bit about how you planned to differentiate the lesson, and then you're going to choose a learning theory that you feel best matches the lesson that you taught. So if you were trying to shape your students' behaviors by reinforcing when they did things correctly, then you would choose behaviorism. If your lesson was more focused on focusing their attention, helping them rehearse information in working memory, even using dual coding with having, visuals while you were talking about things to activate that visual-spatial sketchpad in the phonological loop, and then encoding things to long-term memory. If that was your focus, then you're going to go with information processing. If your focus was on modeling how to do something to your students, then you're going to want to go with social cognitivism. And if your lesson was really about allowing students to explore and discover concepts on their own, then you would go with modern constructivism. So you just choose the learning theory that best matches what you were trying to accomplish in the classroom. Then there's a reflection that you write at the end, and that reflection has some guiding questions on this worksheet again, and I really want you to be thinking about your use of that theory. How did that theory fit with these students, with you, and really interestingly, do a good critical analysis of how would this lesson change if you used a different theory. Okay, so there are some questions in there. Answer all of those, slap it on the end of all of your tippers, so you should end up with a document that's somewhere around the 9 or 10 page mark if you wrote about a page for each of the tippers. Okay, so that's your tipper, parts 1 and 2. You're going to put it all together in one document and submit it in the appropriate assignment spot. Okay. Now, the next one that we have, I'm going to jump back out to that modules area and down to the finishing the key assignments module. The next big key assignment that we just need to put together, because you guys have been working on this one all across the semester, is your assessment inventory. And I know you're still waiting for a couple of grades and feedback, most importantly, right, from me on those. So I'm going to get those to you within the next day or two. So what we need to do with those is you're going to put all of those assessments together into a single document. This is everybody. So this is not group anymore. You need to do this individually so that each person is certain that they have the key assignment. In the past, I've had students who are like, oh, well, I did that with my group and now my group member graduated and I don't have access to it anymore. So you're going to want to make sure that you do it individually, and each person's going to submit this. So I went to the assessment inventory final reflection and submission page, and we'll come back to the reflection in a second. But this is how you put it together. So you're going to start with a cover page, just really simple, so I know whose it is and when you did this. Then I've created a list of these assessments in a particular order. This order is going to allow you and me to really simply know, yes, I have every single one of these assignments, okay? So put them in this order. The CAT class feedback first, then your 2 CATs for student learning, your self-assessment, your peer assessment, observation checklist, project, portfolio, traditional test. You'll notice those kind of build in complexity, so it makes it really easy for us to see that you have every single piece. Okay, so put your assessments in that order. Every assessment should have its core, when, why, what, the instrument, and the little reflection on reliability, validity, bias, and practicality. Every assessment should have that. Then we come back, and the last page of this is going to be your final reflection. It may be a page to 2 pages single-spaced. So you're going to first look at those reflections that you wrote about the reliability, validity, bias, and practicality. And you're going to think about, based on those criteria, which of these assessments are your strongest ones, which ones are the most valid, the most reliable, and then which ones are your weakest. And in particular, we're going to be concerned about assignments that seem to be weak on validity, right? So it just depends on how we wrote them and what we were asking students to do, and it's an opportunity for you to reflect on your assessments with regard to those criteria as a whole. Okay, so that's question 1. Question 2, you're thinking about which of the assessments you'd actually use with your students and why. And maybe they're not your strongest assessments, but maybe you think that they're really going to get at an aspect of student learning that's important, okay? I'd also like you in that question to think about, were there assessments that you created for this assignment that you'd never thought of before, and would you use those ones with your students and why? Question 3, this is a big one. I want you to think about, everything we've learned in this class beyond assessment and thinking about how they tie into assessment now. So I've been asking you all along about reliability, validity, bias, and practicality. But what else matters when we're thinking about assessments? So for example, I asked you to build the project in such a way that it allowed the students to explore their identity somewhat. I feel that's really important. When we're teaching adolescents and when we're offering opportunities to assess them, I would love to see the inclusion of identity exploration in there because this is so crucial for these students. But there are also other things that you might think about. For example, cognitive development. That's going to inform the types of and levels of assessments you're going to give your kids. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The self-determination theory and those needs for autonomy, belonging, and competence. How do you consider those when you're developing assessments? So there are lots of other concepts from the course that you could bring in here. I'd like you to consider what you feel are the 3 most important. And I don't want to hear alignment because that's validity, no reliability, any of that stuff. It needs to be other concepts from the course. Okay? Last question is to rate your current skill with assessment as novice, intermediate, or expert. And just for your information, I rate myself at about a high intermediate level, because I know there's a lot I don't know about assessment yet, and I know I'm still making mistakes, and I hope someday I'll be an expert, but it seems like the more I know, the less I think I know, is how it's working. So rate yourself and then think about 2 specific things you feel you need to get better at. Do you need to get better at writing rubrics? Do you need to get better at being clear about your expectations? Do you need to get better at writing test questions? What is it you feel you need to do? And then specifically, how are you going to gain those skills? And it is not okay here to say you'll get better with time, because I know a lot of 30-year veteran teachers who still give terrible assessments. So you have to be proactive about going out and getting what you need, whether that's working with a PLC or collaborating with another teacher down the hall or using websites or taking classes, whatever it is, find a way, okay? So that's the assessment inventory. You're going to put on the cover sheet. You're going to put the assessments in the order that it says to do right here. Write the final reflection, all one document, and each person is going to submit that individually where it says to on Canvas. Okay? So those are your big key assignments. Again, you have until Monday night to get all of this stuff done, as well as I need to make sure that everybody is turning in their peer modeling evaluations, as well as their field experience tracking and evaluation forms. Make sure all those loose ends are tied up, please. Okay. Now, in preparation from the final, there is a module there, and I'm going to be posting the final shortly for those of you who are all ready to take it. But for the final, here's what's happening. First of all, you are going to write your personal learning theory. Okay, so I'm going to go into the assignments area really quickly and show you that. The personal learning theory is your chance to kind of gain some closure around this course. So we've learned a whole lot of concepts here. We've learned really 5 different perspectives of what learning is, not to mention development and things like that. But we've learned about, the behaviorist definition of learning and how that works, the cognitivist or information processing definition of learning and how that works. We've learned about social cognitivism and its definition and modern constructivism. But then we've also learned about educational neuroscience. So we have these 5 different definitions of what learning is. So for this assignment, the personal learning theory, you are writing your personal theory of what learning is. I mean, I want to take your theory and publish it in our textbook, right? So that somebody else can study it later. So what is your definition of learning? So start with that. What does it mean to learn? And then, how does learning happen? Okay, so that's a two-parter at the beginning of this, in this what section in this assignment. So what is learning? What is your definition of that term? Does it mean the acquisition of knowledge? Does it mean a change in perspective due to experience? What does that word mean? And then how does it actually take place? Then in the so what, this is the most important part, write a few robust, detailed paragraphs about how you're going to take that theory and put it into practice. We've tried all semester to do that, to take theory and put it into practice. So take your theory now and say, okay, if this is what learning is and how it takes place, then what am I going to do in my classroom to make sure that my students learn? What is it going to look like? And again, this could include other concepts from the course, including assessment and identity development and cognitive development and motivation and all that kind of stuff, as well as specific strategies like using inquiry-based learning, for example, or using reinforcement or modeling concepts. So you can draw from any of the other theories, or you can totally make up your own, whatever you would like. This you're going to turn in by next Thursday, which is the last day of finals. Okay? Now you also need to do the final. The final, what you're going to do, because you've got to get ready for that praxis PLT, right? That you take after you graduate from us, sometime in the first 3 years of your teaching career. So I want you to be prepared for that exam, but you guys know by now that I don't feel like an objective test is a great measure of what you've learned in my class. I just don't feel like that. So what we're going to do is you're going to study like your life depends on it, okay? You are going to go through, there's a module that has all the review materials that you could possibly want for this class, as well as you have access to the whole course so you can do what you need to study. And then you're going to print out the test. It's just a Word document. Print it out, take it, and let's see how you do. Okay, it's only worth 20 points, so be honest here. Take it and really get a good assessment on where you're standing. This is, again, a metacognitive exercise, but we will just put that 20-point score with it. Then we are scheduled, and I told you this the first week of classes, so I hope you all got it on your schedule. We are scheduled to meet together on Wednesday, April 29th, at 3 p.m. in ME 118 to come together and discuss this. So we'll have a Socratic seminar that goes around that exam. So you need to take the exam in advance and bring it with you. Okay? So that will be on Wednesday. Let's wrap everything up. By Monday night of this coming week, every assignment that you want graded needs to be turned in except for the personal learning theory and the final exam. We will meet to talk about the final exam Wednesday at 3, so you need to be sure to have taken it before that. And then your personal learning theory, you can finish it right there at our final if you'd like to. You can finish it in advance if you want to get it off your plate, but it just needs to be turned in by Thursday evening. Okay, that's it. Nothing comes in after that. So just make sure you go through that last module, get everything done. I'm here. Please send emails, come in and see me if you need to. If you have any questions, let's not have any lingering questions as we go into this last week, okay? Again, I apologize for being out of communication. I hope this is helpful and is going to get you going where you need to be. Please contact me if you have questions. And really, guys, good luck. It's been a great semester.